if I actually plan these things out and set a timer so that I can get it done, things will actually get done. Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Gia. I am a 26-year-old lady who lives in my mom's basement, and today is the mid-year freakout tag in addition to my quarter 3 and 4 goals and reviewing the first 2 quarters. So it's a bit of a mashup today. This is actually a reshoot of the mid-year freakout tag because I did film it about a week and a half ago, but I didn't really like how it turned out. Plus I was not done finishing some books at the end of June, so I wanted to wrap those up. The contents and point of this tag are not new. You have seen this tag being floated all over BookTube at the moment. I actually don't know who the original creator of this tag is, but this is not an original idea. I would never claim this to be an original idea. So with that being said, there are 11 questions in the tag. The first one being, what is the best book that you have read so far this year? Now, for a lot of these, I do have multiple answers, and that is because I kind of do my rating system a little bit different, in which I might rate 2 things 5 stars, but it's in comparison to other things in its category. So it might look a little weird to see me rate 2 books 5 stars that don't look like they would be in the same caliber, but because I read so many genres, I do tend to compare them to each other. So there are 3 books that I have read this year that have really captivated me. I do intend to do a longer format video about it. Is The Lost Apothecary by Sarah Penner. I have talked about this book extensively. I recently picked up a copy at the used bookstore after I promised myself that I wouldn't buy anything because I am on a semi-permanent book buying ban due to financial reasons and spatial constraints, but I had to have it. The Lost Apothecary is a multi-perspective story between 3 women, one of them being in the modern day. Her name is Caroline, and then 2 women in the past. Their names are Nella and Eliza, and they live in the 1790s in London. And Caroline stumbles upon a long forgotten story about a apothecary shop owner who helped women by dispensing poisons to abusive husbands and brothers, and a young girl who goes to her for help. And this story has been lost for hundreds and hundreds of years, and Caroline rediscovers them. And this just spoke to me as somebody who has gone to college and to graduate school for historical archaeology, which I describe as basically filling in the gaps in the history book, if you will. If the entire history of the world in all perspectives is one massive book, historical archaeology kind of fills in those gaps and tends to focus a lot on the lost perspectives of women, of enslaved people, of minorities, of children, etc. Basically anybody who isn't white, male, and literate and rich. See where I'm going with this? So this is just a captivating story, and I loved it so much. I think I read it in like a day, and I am so excited to read The London Seance Society, which is a new release that I haven't read yet. That's question 3. I would recommend this book to absolutely anybody, and I can't wait to actually do an academic deep dive. The way that this story kind of captivates the vibes of historical archaeology, something that a lot of people don't really know that much about, and it's something that I do know a lot about. So I'm excited to eventually, finally, make a video about The Lost Apothecary and historical archaeology in fiction. The 2 other best books that I read so far this year are ones that I read more recently in the month of June. I won't talk about them as much because everybody else won't stop talking about them. So the first one is Babel. I'm a bit late to the train, but reading Babel just made me feel like I was back in my classroom in college learning about anthropological theory, and it warmed my heart. Like it made me, of course the story is horrible. Like it's all about colonialism and racism and classism, and it's just, of course the story itself is horrifying. However, these discussions between the characters just made me go back and think about that experience that I had in college, where I felt fortunate that I was actually in a circle of people having those conversations. I come from a background where I was previously educated about these topics and I already knew about these things, but to confront it in a fiction that felt so real, it was haunting and it was horrifying, but it was an amazing, amazing story that really teaches you things. And I walked away from it feeling not only good because it reminded me of that experience, and it reminded me of the things that I knew that I may not employ in my everyday life, but it really made me hope that other people read it and they also learned something from it. And then the other one was Fourth Wing. So I'm going to do I have 2 Fourth Wing videos planned, actually, which is not a book that I should be focusing on because, you know, where I should be talking about things that are meaningful and stuff. But I really liked, you know, Spicy How to Train Your Dragon. It was really good. The best sequel that I've read so far this year was The Hawthorne Legacy by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. This is probably the best book in the series by far. I have talked in the past about how I really enjoyed the way that this story was told because all of the chapters were really short, so it kind of felt like a TV show where every chapter change was a switch in camera angle, basically. So it was very fast paced, and I finished the books really quickly. I really enjoy these mysteries that are based in puzzles, that every little step is another piece to the puzzle, and it's like a 100-piece puzzle, or even more than that, how everything like interlocks together like a little Rubik's Cube. And I really enjoy that kind of mystery. I really wish that I saw it more. I did have some complaints as to the like teenage antics of it all, but overall, I really did enjoy the story. It wasn't the greatest mystery of all time, but I really enjoyed the theatrics and the amount of forethought that goes into like building that kind of Rubik's Cube, if you will. So I really enjoyed it. It was a really good book. The first and the third one are okay, but the second one is the best one by far, and I haven't read the fourth one yet. A new release that I haven't read yet: The London Seance Society by Sarah Penner and A Botanist's Guide to Flowers and Fatality by Kate Kavari. I'll be really honest, I try not to look too deep into story synopses, besides, you know, getting a taste as to what's going on just to see if I would kind of like it. And then I read it because I don't like to know a lot about a book before I go into it. If I want to read something and something's floating around and it looks like something I might enjoy, I try not to engage. So I don't exactly know what the London Seance Society is about, even though it is by an author that I already really like after reading one book by her. And you know, it's probably going to be a bit different, but I'm hoping that the London Seance Society kind of gives me another like archaeology flavor, you know, like I'm hoping there's like family secrets and like things that are uncovered and like lost in the archives kind of, but like because they contacted ghosts. So I'm really hoping that that's kind of the vibe that we're going for. I don't know. I just think that it would be kind of fun and goofy, but also fun. So all of the above. And then A Botanist's Guide to Flowers and Fatality. I read A Botanist's Guide to Parties and Poisons last summer, and I only rated it about 3 to 3.5 stars. I don't quite remember what my specific gripes with it were. I'd have to go back and watch that reading vlog. I just really liked the vibe because we were like in a college in London, and it was all about like geeky little nerds in their academic offices and like writing papers and going on adventures. Like that's like faux Indiana Jones. I love that. I really love that kind of vibe. Like anything that takes place in a college or a library or anything academic, but then with an adventure, is just something that I really gravitate towards. My most anticipated releases for the second half of the year, I have 3 of them. The first one is Between Fear and Favor by Jess Wisecup. I am only exactly 50% through the second book, and I know that I'm going to love the second book. Maybe not as much as the first, because the first one was like, it hit me right at the right time. But I already know that I'm going to love it enough that I want to read the next book because I'm loving this universe. So yeah, Between Fear and Favor, I think it comes out in August or September, I think. The next is King of Greed by Anna Huang. I recently read King of Wrath and I really liked it. I need to read King of Pride, and then King of Greed is coming out. So I am really loving this. Like, I don't usually read like mafia romances and stuff. I have in the past, don't get me wrong. Like, I am a child of fanfiction.net, but it's not something that I read these days. And I have been in the past a self-admitted contemporary romance hater, but I don't hate mafia romances and I don't hate like dark romances. It's just they have to be done correctly and not too corny and cheesy. Like Den of Vipers, I DNF'd that at 18%. Like, ew, gross. But the last one is, of course, Iron Flame by Rebecca Yarros. I pre-ordered this. I was at 65% through Fourth Wing, and I pre-ordered Iron Flame. I am guilty. I fell for the hype. I really liked it. I'm gonna get a copy of Iron Flame with the sprayed edges, so I'm super excited. Taking a turn to the disappointments, my biggest ones were A Court of Frost and Starlight and The Luminaries by Susan Dennard. A Court of Frost and Starlight, I have waxed poetic on multiple times about how I felt like the bulk of it was absolutely pointless, and that Akatar Christmas kind of captivated the actual like good parts of the story, and I wish that it was not quite as large of a focal point. However, I do understand why the novella exists, because there are those little tiny nuggets that were present in the story that were necessary before we continued with A Court of Silver Flames, which I haven't read yet. I am getting there. And just to lightly gloss over again, what I did like about A Court of Frost and Starlight is that it had these little nuggets of things that were important that would have been lost in, say, A Court of Wings and Ruin, where it was just war and Rhysand and Feyre having sex in a war camp. So it was there was stuff that was going to be lost, and these were important things that we needed to know as we moved on. So at the end of A Court of Wings and Ruin, there was kind of like a side eye going on with Cassian and Nesta, and then in A Court of Frost and Starlight, we get a little bit more information about their like hatred for each other, but they also know that the bond is there, and they are, well, Nesta is fighting the mating bond with Cassian. And then at the same time, you have a lot of tidbits of information pertaining to Lucian, Elaine, and Asriel, and I've been seeing a bit more of the drama kicking up on book Twitter recently about people shipping Elaine and Asriel or Lucian and Elaine. I have to admit that I'm on the Elaine and Asriel train, just because I don't know. I felt like Asriel gets Elaine, but I don't know. I don't know. That's just me. That's just me. I could be wrong. I'm not like that dedicated to this opinion. It was just a vibe that I got. But as far as why the Luminaries was disappointing to me, I wished that everything was aged up, because I liked the vibe of the story and I liked where it was going and I liked this universe, but I felt like it was aged down too much. And maybe it's just because I'm a 26-year-old lady who often reads YA, but I read this story and it was so fascinating, and the universe was so captivating, and I enjoyed like the elements of gothic horror that we were getting with the monster hunting and how this mysterious mist makes monsters appear at night and stuff. But I felt like this was wasted on the fact that our protagonists were like 16 to 17-year-old high school students, and I felt like it could have been a bit aged up more to like college age, especially with Winnie talking about how her family was struggling financially because of being socially ostracized. So I really wanted more of that. You know, she was struggling to get a job because of their ostracism by their society. So I really wanted a little bit more of that commentary, and I wanted it to be, I felt like I could have asked for more horror and I wasn't getting it. So it wasn't bad. It was just, I think, a little bit too young for me. And if I'm looking for a story like that, I needed to be aged up. My biggest surprise was Poison Season by Mara Rutherford and Between Wrath and Mercy by Jess Wisecup. I have been comparing the Poison Season to like if you mixed the movie Midsummer with The Lord of the Flies, and you had they combined each other. I don't necessarily like when books say that if you like Sarah J. Maas and The Cruel Prince, and you're going to love this. It's just that's the best way that I can compare the two, because it has these really deep elements of social ostracism and religious like cult-like mentality mixed with like some gothic horror, because the Lord of the Flies got a little scary as it went on, but you know, Midsummer was also that like descent into cult madness, and I really think that the Poison Season captivates this perfectly, and it was honestly pretty horrifying. And then the other one is Between Wrath and Mercy by Jess Wisecup. I cannot believe that this was put on Kindle Unlimited for free. I will give a warning to those who don't like the second chance romance trope, which honestly, it's okay, you're allowed to be wrong, but this is a second chance at a first love romance between the crown prince of a country and the twin sister of the person he was supposed to marry, and they are in their early to mid 30s now. They've been separated for 16 years, and the heroine's daughter goes missing, and she has to go to the crown prince, who she still loves, and ask him for his help to get her daughter back. Over the course of the story, they just fall back in love as they process their grief and loss that they've both experienced, and how they processed it differently and how it brings them back together. It made me cry. Favorite new author debut or new to me, that would be Lee Bardugo and Jess Wisecup. Moving on. My newest fictional crush was Prince Rainier from Between Wrath and Mercy, because he was a man in his mid-30s who was emotionally available and emotionally self-aware. Like, oh my God. A man who was like in touch with his feelings and aware of his faults and wanting to fix things by also taking accountability. Stop. Stop it. Amazing. Amazing. He was very dreamy. I love heroes with positive masculinity. I want to see more of that, please. My newest favorite character was Violet from Violet Made of Thorns. She is a seer who is being instructed to lie by the king and crown prince of her country because things are getting a little bit unsettled and there's some mysterious happenings going on in the woods and everybody's a little bit unsettled. And she every day just wakes up and has to read everybody's tarot, read everybody's palms, and she's so bored of trying to read everybody's future and trying to find something to make them happy that she just mixes things up as she goes along. And I thought it was a very refreshing take on a seer character because she was more tired than she was mystical. She was very sassy, she was very smart. It's just, I loved her. I loved her banter with the crown prince Cyrus, who later becomes her love interest. I just thought she was a very compelling character. Books that made me cry. I am not a book crier. I am more of a movie crier, but Between Wrath and Mercy, it got me. It got me good. I did cry my eyes out a little bit, maybe because it was hitting me in a little bit of a personal place, but I don't want to dissect that right now. The other one was Final Offer by Lauren Asher. This was just because the story was so deep and heartfelt about the main hero's recovery from alcoholism, and he was trying to patch up his relationship with, again, it's another second chance romance story. If you are averse to the trope, you're allowed to be wrong, bad taste is a disease and all that. Amazing, superior, best book in the trilogy, made me cry. And then books that made me happy, Sorcery of Thorns and Never Ever Getting Back Together. For two completely different reasons. Sorcery of Thorns, because it was taking place in a magical library. Even though there were elements of gothic horror and mystery and everything, I was just so captivated by this story. I loved every second of it, and at the end of the day, I was like, it's all about a library. It's all about libraries and grimoires and magic, and it was just so enchanting, and it was just a standalone little story, and I really, really enjoyed it. I loved the vibes, and just at the end of it, I was like, that was a really nice experience. But then Never Ever Getting Back Together is a sapphic romance about two women who go to a bachelor-like competition in which their ex-boyfriend is the bachelor in question, and the whole point is that he dates all of his ex-girlfriends again to kind of reanimate a spark. And one of them is wanting to get revenge, and the other wants to get back together with him, and instead they fall in love with each other. And if that doesn't sound cute as fuck to you, I'm gonna need you to check to see if your heart is still there. So yeah, that's my mid-year freakout tag as I am descending into madness, trying to get everything done that I wanted to get done this year, because I am not meeting expectations, but I had a lot going on, and that's really not my fault. So I want to first of all go over my stats from Q1 and Q2 before I dive into my lofty but attempting to be realistic goals for Q3 and Q4. So let me turn myself so I can put them over here. In 2023, it was my goal to read 75 books this year. So far, I have read 37, which is technically 49%. I am almost a book behind, but I am trending on track to read 75 books this year. I was about 5 books ahead, but then I hit a reading slump in May, and I talked about that in the April-May wrap-up combo video. So I'm clawing my way back to being ahead and actually exceeding my goals, because that is the real goal, right? Is to exceed, not to exactly meet the goal. But next, my goals are to read 25,000 pages, and I have read 12,975, which is 52%. So I am, I think, about 600 pages ahead, which is good. I have been trending ahead for quite some time just because I have been reading a lot more ebooks this year, and also I have been reading a lot of larger books this year. So that would be why I'm not reading as many books, but I'm ahead in my pages. And then for my audio hours, I wanted to listen to 250 hours, and I have listened to 138, which is 55%. So again, I am listening to longer books. My top 3 genres are fantasy, young adult, and romance, respectively. I would like to switch this up. I'm not going to aim specifically to switch it up. It's just that I hope by the end of the year, my top 3 genres are more reflective of an older age group. But new adult as a category is not really widely recognized or defined at this point. So a lot of young adult is more new adult. More needs to be done to label books as new adult versus young adult, because I love fantasy romances. I just prefer my characters to be like 25 instead of 16. And I don't think that's very much of an ask. Hello, short interlude from editing Gia. This is actually 2 or 3 weeks in the future from when I recorded this, because I'm just now getting around to doing the final round of edits, but I did have an idea. So let me know down in the comments if you would like me to kind of retroactively go back into the books that I've read both this year and even last year, and manually go through and find the ages of the protagonists, so I can kind of give you a more succinct list of what I have read that is YA versus NA. And if you want me to do a list based on the new adult ones specifically, the ones that are specifically new adult, and I do a recommendations video, I can go ahead and do that. I think that that would be a really fun idea, because like Between Wrath and Mercy, that's definitely new adult, but then Sorcery of Thorns, definitely YA. So let me know if you would like me to do that. Enjoy the rest of the video. Bye. I would like more like mid to late 20s heroines preferably, but I'm sure that they're out there. I just have to find them. I favor medium-paced books between 300 and 499 pages, but over half of my audiobooks have been over 16 hours long. So I'm choosing to listen to bigger books instead of reading them. This fact is not surprising to me, because I read The Lost Apothecary on an e-reader, even though I do own a physical copy now, and this book is exactly 300 pages, and it was really easy for me to read this in literally a day. But there are other books that I can't do that, and I just kind of get lost in the sauce between all these big books like Queen of the Tearling and Blade Breaker. I had to return those books physically because I couldn't get through them, and I'm getting them on audio instead because it's easier for me to digest a larger book in an audio format. So this is not surprising to me that I am choosing to read bigger books via audio. In fact, I am choosing to listen to books more often than I am reading them right now, just because of my own like mental health thing and exploring like my bipolar disorder and how best I function. And I'm just finding that audiobooks are more suitable for me for my reading type. So right now, I'm not surprised. I think in the second half of the year, that is really going to jump up as far as my number of audiobooks goes. Well, I'm glad I looked. I had some books that were mislabeled as print because it looked a little suspicious, but I have read 46% of my books digitally, 30% of them print, and 24% of them audio. I do expect the audio percent to go up, especially since a lot of the books that I put on hold most recently are books that I didn't read as a print, so I'm going to get them as a audiobook to try to get through them a lot faster. And then my star ratings range from a 2.5 to a 5-star rating with an average of 4.12. And then to dive into my goals for Q3 and Q4, this is more of a semester 2 goal list. I have 6 goals. The first one being to average 7 to 10 books a month. This is not abnormal. This is not shooting too high. This is a usual number. On average, in my good months, I am reading 8 to 10 books anyway. 8 and 10 are very common numbers for me to hit. Although in June, I did read only 6 books, which is better than in May, I only read 2. So, you know, I have my good months and bad months, but for the next 6 months, I would like to read 7 to 10 books a month and really keep up the pace. The second goal being 2 to 3 YouTube videos a month, because I have been slacking since February. For those who don't know, in February around Super Bowl time, I did contract COVID a second time, and it was infinitely worse the second time around. It took me a month to recover, and I didn't produce anything or do much at all or read much at all, and it's been a decline just because I was losing the energy to create, because I had to go back to work and I had issues with my car and I had so many things going on that I couldn't prioritize my creative endeavors. And I really hope to rectify that, because I do care about this channel and I do care about where it goes, and I do care whether or not I end up making money on it. So I mean, what is the goal of being on the internet if not to maybe monetize yourself? And I can't lie that that would be something that would be beneficial for me, because I would be doing something that I loved whilst making a living off of it, which is something that I can't deny that I need right now. So it's not that, I'm trying to get monetized. It's just, if I eventually do, that would be pretty awesome. So I need to keep up the pace with that if I want to fulfill the creative need inside my skull, because I am bipolar, focusing on the manic part. And I have so many ideas that these things just like marinate and manifest in my brain. And I want to take the time to make them, and I want to do these things. But the combination of COVID and physical exhaustion mixed with changing up my bipolar medication is, I seem calm right now, but once my meds wear off at the end of the day, that's a completely different story. But, changing my meds to something that actually works for me also had an effect on my creative output, because I wasn't as manic all the time. And I have tried to learn how to, I call it microdosing my mania, but it's basically taking my meds too late at night and I have like an hour or two of unreleased manic energy. But I've tried to learn how to use my cycles that I still feel, those like rapid bipolar cycles, still use those, how to still generate creative content in a healthy way for me, which is something that I'm still learning how to do. So in addition to that, I want to stream once to twice a week, alternating between Twitch and YouTube, just because Twitch keeps screwing us over and YouTube seems to be the future for me. I'd like to post on Instagram and TikTok more often. I don't have a specific number goal. I don't want to do like a certain number of posts a month, a week, or something. It's just I want to post more and be more present. So I'm going to start doing like little mini book reviews, I hope, or I'm going to at least draft like usual things that I'd like to post on TikTok, because it is a really good thing to use for visibility. And I do have like almost 5,000 followers. I think I'm at like 4,500 right now. My last two goals are probably the biggest and the ones that I will have to be kind to myself and realistic about, but it's things that I want to do for the long term. The first one is that I would like to actually focus on completing larger projects by following monthly outlines. I'd like to average one large project every month or one every other month. I don't have a laundry list of ideas that I want to do at the moment. I have about 4 or 5 that are marinating in my skull, but they will take a lot of work to generate. So I'm maybe going to do the every other month large project. But those are things that I want to actually do instead of just doing wrap ups, TBRs, tags, tier lists, that kind of thing. I want to do like actual deep dives and actually generate something creative, and not that I am saying that I would be copying other people, but I want to make something that's mine in that respect. I would like to focus on actually making and focusing on these long-term projects that I've been thinking about for months and weeks and stuff. So there's that. And then the last goal is I would like to begin drafting my first ebook. Saying that out loud is very scary. I would like to plan to have a rough draft by the end of December. So I'd like to give myself 6 months to write a book. Now, before you say, Gia, that sounds like a lot of work, I'm a child of fanfiction.net, lest you forget. So I have not only read fanfiction, but I have written fanfiction. I do have experience writing creatively, should we say. So it's not that I don't believe in myself as far as the creative goals. It's just that I have the experience of writing creatively. I know that it's completely different. I know that it's generating something all on my own, but I have, again, had an idea marinating in my skull, and I want to make it into something. I want to pluck it out of my head like Athena was plucked out of Zeus's skull, and I want to make something. And I don't know, put it on Amazon. I don't know, put it on, I don't know, something like put it on Kindle Unlimited, something. I've been thinking about it, and it's a contemporary romance, believe it or not. So I have this idea, and I want to make it, and I've been thinking about it for a long time, and it's not done. It's just an idea, but I want to make it into something. So that's where I'm at right now. Those are my 6 goals for Q3 and Q4. I have a lot to do creatively and realistically. I have been attempting to get a second job because my first one, I don't make enough at it. And I need to start preparing my portfolio to reapply to graduate programs because I do intend to move home next summer at the very latest and actually like invest in myself and invest in my relationship that has been long distance for the better part of 3 years. And I want to do something for myself and actually get my life back on track since the pandemic messed up my first round of grad school. So yeah, I have a lot going on. I have a lot to do, and I'm excited to start doing it. If you made it to the end of this video, thank you so much for hanging out with me. If you'd like to find me anywhere else, you could find me on Twitch, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Remember to drink water and be nice to each other and exude kindness and empathy with everything that you do. And I will see you in the next video. Bye.